we're talking about something that every one of us has, but too few of us ever take the time to preserve. And that's our legacy, and that's our stories. Every life is a collection of experiences, relationships, triumphs, setbacks, and moments that shape not only who we become, but also the communities in which we live. Yet so many remarkable stories disappear because no one ever asks the questions, or because we assume someone else already knows the answers, or perhaps even worse, maybe we feel that no one is interested. But not today. Today we are here to celebrate 4 fabulous and unique individuals. Each of our featured Kansans, or Lasting Legacy Online Stories, has taken a different path. Their stories include the topics of immigration, public service, leadership, business, and community involvement, and breaking down social and cultural barriers. Within our small group that makes up Lasting Legacy Online, our definition of legacy is the impact we leave on other people and the values that we pass forward. It is the wisdom our children, grandchildren, neighbors, and communities can continue to learn from long after we're gone. What makes Lasting Legacy Online and this project so meaningful is these aren't simply stories about what people have accomplished. They're stories about the lives behind these accomplishments, the choices these individuals made, the challenges they faced, and the people and experiences that shaped them. Today's 4 panelists have each devoted much of their lives to serving others, and they've also made the decision to preserve those stories through the Lasting Legacy Online platform. They recognize that history isn't just written in textbooks, it's written through the lives of maybe what we can say, ordinary individuals who purposely chose to make an extraordinary difference. My hope today is that you'll not only hear about their careers and accomplishments, but also about the moments that shaped them and why they believed their stories were worth preserving. Perhaps you'll even leave inspired to write your own story one day. Hint, hint, that's what I'm really hoping for. After all, every community is built one life story at a time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start asking each of our panelists a series of questions so you can get to know these individuals better and the impact that they have made. I'm going to start with Zach, and then I'll just ask you guys to kind of pass the mic around as we go through, if that feels fine. All right. Zach.
Yes.
Like all 4 of our featured guests, you are an example of how a person's legacy isn't necessarily one single career or accomplishment. Sometimes it's a collection of experiences and the way that we use each chapter of our lives to influence the next. So my first question to you is, you have worn several different hats throughout your career, from journalism to nonprofit leadership to business owner. Looking back on your experiences, what do you feel are some of the common threads that connect the chapters of your life?
Great question. And first of all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here to recognize my friends here, my colleagues on the stage that have taken the time intentionally to share your legacy and to inspire us. For others, Dr. Farley and others that have participated in this amazing opportunity to not only remember and to celebrate our stories, but also to encourage and inspire others. And so, thank you. So, I think for me, the common thread of all the different hats that I've been very fortunate to wear at Topeka has been relationship. That's really what I see. There was a person, I don't even know if it was a smart person or if it was a fortune cookie, that said intelligence is the ability to recognize patterns. And so here, when I moved to Topeka, our family, almost 11 years ago, it was as the publisher of the Capital Journal. And that immediately immerses you into community. And it gives you that opportunity to really figure out beyond kind of the sound bites, what makes people do what they do, and what is that connection that we have. And so being able to get to know people and get to know the heart behind what drove people to do good things in our community was inspiring. And as an opportunity, as a piece of that, I had a chance to serve on a lot of different boards and in the community, and that led me to Midland Care, where I was able to serve as Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, which being a newspaper guy, couldn't spell things, and so there's a lot more I's in the word initiatives than what you might think. I had to Google it a couple times. And from there, being able to, again, expand our services to meet the needs and get to know what those needs were. And now at Capper Foundation, it really comes back full circle, as I've had an opportunity to serve as the CEO at Capper for almost 5 years. Interestingly, kind of interesting history of our 106-year-old organization. I'm the second former publisher of what became the Topeka Capital Journal to serve as CEO of Capper Foundation. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and then being a CEO, the only thing I haven't done is become a statesman. And so we'll see.
There's still time for you.
Yes, there we go, yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna next turn our attention to Ping. Ping, your journey began nearly 9,000 miles from where we are sitting today. You arrived in Topeka from the Philippines at just 19 years old. I myself had the privilege of living in the Philippines for several years, so I have a deep appreciation and respect for what an incredible expedition that must have been, particularly at such a young age. So my question to you is, when you first arrived in Kansas, did you ever imagine this would become your lifelong home?
No. Couple of reasons. When I left the Philippines, I knew what I was running away from. What I didn't know was what I was running to. So that was pretty stark separation. Second reason is the immigration status. A lot of people misconstrue immigration and citizenship. They always tend to think of those two words as the same. They're not. Immigration or resident alien is like getting permission to be invited. Okay, so my older sister, Eden Johnson, is here. She came to Topeka first to study with Carl Menninger in 1963 or 64. She graduated, and that was the reason why Topeka was chosen. Between Eden and I, we had like 16 years difference, and so I was the youngest of 8. And so when my parents decided that it was time for me to leave after martial law was declared, and I was placed under house arrest because of my student leadership role at Far Eastern University. Topeka was the destination. So as an immigrant, I had to carry this green card. And every day I see that green card reminds me that I don't belong. And I have to live as a guest, act like as a guest, at my best behavior. I lived that kind of life for about 2 to 3 years. The second reminder is that living in an apartment, we lived in a big house. We had like 13 rooms in the house that I grew up. And coming to a 2-bedroom house with 6 people in it reminded me that I'm a guest. And so with that mindset, I have to be in my best behavior at all times, living out of a suitcase. The same suitcase that I came in until my 2 other sisters and I were able to move to a different unit or an apartment. By the way, if I could, I'd just like to thank the people who came in order of number of years that I've known them. Carol Robertson. I've known her for 52 years, met her in December. Vic Dyke and Renee, I've known him for 51 years. I met him in 75 at the YMCA. Jerry Glasgow, Performance Style Wheel. These are the people who have impacted my life. Dave Stremick, I've known him. To this day, he will not allow me to pay for lunch. Obviously, my sisters, I've known them for 71 years, 72 years. Although they were gone when I was growing up, because I grew up in boarding schools. My wife of 44 years, Diana. My in-laws, Duke and Ginger Dugan, 44 years. Who else? I'm looking. My partner in music, Joe Davidson. The other half of the Simple Pieces. So, anyway, going back to your question. When did I decide that Topeka's got to be home? When I graduated from Washburn in '77. I had to leave the custodial job that I had at the Y because I had to make more money. At the Y, I was making $2.45 an hour. Ryder trucks, I was making $4. So I had to leave. And then Jerry Robertson, Carol's husband, in 1979 called me back to hire me as a program director. And so that's when I decided that Topeka's a good place.
Wonderful. And each of you are most welcome to recognize anybody that you want to. Let's pass that down to Lana, please. So, I had the pleasure of working with Lana directly on your story. And even though we have known each other for a very long time, I was actually surprised at how little I knew about your professional accomplishments, which are many. So Lana, you dedicated much of your career to public service. What first inspired you to serve? And I think this is important. What would you say to young people today who may wonder whether public service is still a worthwhile career?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to share my story. I guess it's kind of humbling and so forth, and it puts it out there in the public. How I came to public service is, it wasn't something that I really sought out for myself. It was something that others asked me to do, and I thought, well, if others have faith in me to do that, to run for state representative, then I will give that a try. I've never done anything like that in my life. I was never very political growing up, but I found that it was a great way to be able to give back to the community. I've been really involved in other community organizations, particularly the Junior League. And one of my good friends that came out of my association in the Junior League is here today, Mimi Gardner. She and I chaired the Junior Leagues next to New South together, and that was probably a building experience for me as far as, being able to manage over 200 members, maybe 300 members, I don't remember how many we had at the time, and put on the major fundraising for the time in my life, and some of those people that I knew from that time in my life have always been very supportive in the roles that I've taken, and I can't do it without him. I really couldn't have ever served in public office had it not been for my husband Arnold, who's also here. He's always been my major support system and encouraged me to do this. He's probably sorry sometimes that I did it because I really kept my voice. And I didn't always vote the way he wanted me to either when I was in the legislature, but he was always there to support me and has supported me throughout everything that I've ever done. And what I would tell young people is, you know, it's probably one of the most rewarding things that, you know, I ever did. And even more rewarding than that was my time spent at the Department of Labor, and I have a couple people there that have come today, a couple people that, you know, I remain close with some of my former colleagues from the Department of Labor, and that was probably a really life-changing time in my life where I was asked to lead that department, and I didn't know if I could do it, and because of the help and because of the teamwork that we built at the Department of Labor, I was able to do it, and Don Honberg and Lacey Wartzer are here today, and they supported me then, and here they are today, too. I want to thank them for coming, so. And there's many other people that I know in the audience, and thank you for being here. So I would encourage young people to get involved in public service. It's extremely rewarding, and what you get back from it is far more than what you put into it.
And just to make this a full circle moment, Don was my son's supervisor at his internship this summer, so I think that's a pretty, I don't know, unique opportunity that we're honoring you, and then Don's here, and she's a connection to my son. So again, today is all about community, and this is how we bring it all together, either knowingly or unknowingly at times, right? So, okay, Blanche, hi.
Yes, hi.
Blanche, your story reminds us that sometimes leaving a legacy means having the courage to walk through a door for the first time and then make sure that door stays open for others to follow. Throughout your life, you've broken barriers, becoming the first Black student in your school and later the first African American member of the Junior League of Topeka. How did those experiences shape your understanding of leadership and your place within this community?
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank Elaine, Carice, and Sean for allowing me to be part of this program today. And also, it's an honor to be with the three other panelists, who I know all three of them. And so I wanted to introduce my husband, Daryl Jones, Wade, and my daughter, Stacy Parks. And I know quite a few of you out there through various organizations, Rotary. I was formerly district governor of the Rotary for Kansas first, and YWCA people are here, and Washburn University, my heart, President and Mrs. Farley. And so anyway, I don't want to go around, but I haven't seen Sheridan Newton since probably college. But anyway, there are quite a few of you here that I know, and so thank you so much for coming and allowing me to be part of this. I'm from Leavenworth, Kansas, and the Brown v. Board case happened May 15, 1954. And so that meant that most African American students, I guess across the United States, had to go to that particular school for African American students and that type of thing. And so the Brown v. Board case provided that you could go to school closest to your home. So my dad worked at Fort Leavenworth, which is there, and so my home was very close to a school called North Broadway, which was all white. So the case was May 15th. So my mom and dad decided they would send me to kindergarten to North Broadway. So I was going to integrate that school system. So what happened was my mother met with the principal and the kindergarten teacher. My kindergarten teacher comes up sometime. Anyway, and they kind of brainstormed and discussed, they strategized, what, how are we going to handle this? They didn't know what was going to happen. And so they had me there in their little meeting. I was 5-year-old, but I still remember it. And so they kind of strategized how they would handle certain situations. At that time, I knew something big was about to happen, but I didn't have a clue what that was. So anyway, long story short, I started school in September 1954 after the Brown v. Board case. What happened was, I recall there were mothers outside of the room, and I could see them in the window and I could see my mom. There were a couple of kids that were taken out of this room, and I was assuming it was because of me, but maybe not. I'll think positive. And so, long story short, at recess, at first the kids would not play with me, and I would sit there and I'd watch them play. Well, so then we go inside, and the kindergarten teacher, Miss Reed, would say, "Okay, she was very nice, very understanding. Now I want everybody to be sure and involve Blanche as you play." And so she would do things like that, and so the kids would gradually, involve me. And so then and so that was part of that strategy. And so then in the class, if I knew the answer or something, and I raised my hand, then she would call on me, and she would say, "That was good, Blanche, good for you," so that the other kids could see that I knew the answer. Long story short, I went from the kids not wanting to play with me to all the kids wanting to play with me. So that had a happy ending. And then I have a sister behind me, she started the next year. And so, long story short, I ended up doing very well. I was part of the elementary school newsletter, and I was in a play, I was in everything. And so I had a very good experience. All my teachers were excellent and gave me an excellent education. Long story short, I am usually the first African American or first woman in most things that I've done in my entire life. And basically, I'm a risk taker, but I'm a cautious risk taker. So I think first, before I jump, And so most of the activities and things that I've done, I've been the first. So it doesn't bother me. So my viewpoint is I just accept the person as they are, and take it from there. And everybody's just been real nice. So I have no complaints. So anyway, long story short, I was involved in everything in junior high and high school. I was on the rifle team. It was a ROTC Army situation. And the majorette, we went to the Cotton Bowl, presidential inauguration. We just did everything. Anyway, I was in everything, every single thing. I was vice president of my senior class, and so I haven't been afraid. And I think it goes back to my kindergarten days. And I've just had some nice people in my life, and I like people, so that helps too. And so I've been real involved in the community down there and also here in Topeka. In fact, that's how I know a lot of you here today, is through volunteering. I was the youngest member of the YWCA board here in Topeka. I was president of the board, and then I was elected the first Kansan on the YWCA of the USA board in New York City. So I was on that board for 8 years. I represented the 19th Senatorial District at the Washburn University Board of Regents. And I was there, I'm the longest serving regent for 29 years. And I just love working with President Farley and Susan Farley. And so we just had a great time. It was quite a challenge, and the campus was rebuilt, and I had the honor to serve on the board at that time. And I don't want to go through everything, but Rotary, I'm there every Thursday, or try to be. So I'm probably the first African American or minority district governor. And so I was that in 2018, 2019, and loved it, loved it. Everybody was so nice to me, they still are. And so, anyway, so I could go on and on, I don't want to take up all the time, but I have had a blessed life. I've met some great people, and it's an honor to be here, so thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's bring it back to King. King, you have several impressive attributes that center around making Topeka a great place to live, including your leadership roles at the YMCA. So, would love to hear more about where the commitment to serving others originates from.
Serving others. I think I learned that quite early on from our parents. Our father was the Olympic boxing coach and lived very, very bright light in the Philippines and actually in Southeast Asia. And he also was a man of faith. And he always preached sharing, the gift of sharing. Whatever he had, he always had to share. His greatest gift was educating young men. He would recruit young kids from the slums, from the remote rural provinces, who never would dream of getting a college degree, bring them to Far Eastern University or private university, and get their college education, eventually would get them in government, get them places where they never would dream of on their own. And so from that genesis would come the gift of giving. And as I grow up, the Catholic Church always has this doctrine of works of mercy. We are obliged or encouraged to help out. And when I came to Topeka, most of my role models, I'm talking about Dave, Vic, people I saw at the athletic club. The athletic club is full of people who were business leaders. I saw them giving. They're always giving. Vic, for instance, he still does Meals on Wheels. That's a life we're created for. If we don't serve others, then what other purpose do we have? Now that I'm retired, we help out at church. I sing at nursing homes. That's how we occupy times. And it all came from mom and dad.
Thank you, I love that. Hey, Zach, you've had really a unique opportunity to see Topeka through a variety of lenses. How has each of those experiences shaped your understanding of what makes Topeka such a special place to live, work, and raise a family?
So, before I answer that, I want to just go back to about 2017, 2018, when Blanche Parks was our district governor for Rotary. She still today, because I fact-checked it, she still today holds the record for the largest Rotary District convention and attendance in the state of Kansas. And it was at this brand new little boutique hotel called the Cyrus. And right when it first opened, with the Great Kansas theme, right? There's no place like home. And so she still holds the record, so we all aspire. That's the curve that we're all judged against. So you set the bar very high. So I think about that. I think about this idea of being able to compare different experiences. And so when I think about that question, it kind of takes me back, first of all, to my family. When we have known ourselves as the Aarons Family Five, and only 60% of us are here today. My wife Heidi and our middle son Connor. My other two were not able to make it, Carter and Cameron. But we would move when I was early in the newspaper business, and essentially I would take distressed newspapers. Now they're all kind of distressed, I'm afraid, but back in the day when they were before disruption and they were more steady, I would go from market to market, community to community, and effectively flip newspapers. I would try to help grow the journalism and deepen the community impact and relations in the different areas. And so in that experience, we lived, and this is why one of the reasons why my wife is so amazing, we moved to 6 states in 12 different communities in about our first 10, 15-ish, not even 15, about 15 years of marriage. So we, not joke, haha, but the kind of was, we should join the military for consistency in our lives. We would have to move so much. And, if you can imagine, we'd have boxes in our basement that would have the Mayflower Moving Company stickers, and it was a good way to purge, because whenever you were about 2 or 3 stickers deep on a box that hadn't been opened, you knew that was the box you got rid of. And so, almost in real time, our family had the ability to compare different communities, different places. And in our journey, we got to return to my wife's home state of Iowa. We got to return to my hometown, where I grew up in Nebraska. And Topeka has been the longest place that we have lived in our entire married life. And, after I left the newspaper industry, it was our choice, kind of where do you want to live? And we thought, we've got enough Mayflower stickers on boxes, maybe we could just, stay here. And it's been a tremendous blessing to be able to do that. So coming into Topeka, as I compare it to other communities, I would say it has been very inviting that a person that's not from here originally, or not from the state of Kansas, could so quickly be given the opportunity to serve, to be involved, to build relationships. And I think I'm just looking out and I see a lot of Rotarians. I know we're talking about Rotary. I will say Elaine is our membership chair, so if you're not a member, you're all going to be members before you leave today, so you might as well just do it on your own. But with that, you immediately have a sense of community connection of people that are like-minded. And the idea of community, the idea of open dialogue, open communication, service, as we say, service above self. And being in the newspaper business, it gave me the opportunity to kind of pull the curtain back and ask the questions that sometimes you didn't even spill ink over, but just those extra human questions when the conversation had officially gone off the record. And it was interesting to me because you got to see really the heart behind the soundbite, or the heart behind the pull quote. And it impressed me. I mentioned earlier that I had the opportunity to serve on a lot of different boards in my role as a newspaper publisher. And that gave me a chance to kind of test drive a lot of our nonprofits and a lot of our different organizations, and to really see what makes them tick. Because that was actually, if you go back to, I can actually Google it, and please don't, because I'm trying to get it removed, but some of my initial conversations, it's a public record now, where I, talked about, this is the city of government and nonprofits. And I said, who's paying taxes? But that's neither here nor there. But the point to that was, I would go and I'd say, well, don't you do what they do? And that discernment and that kind of quest to learn, that quest to be involved, is actually what helped me in my post-newspaper career, working at Midland Care, working at Capper Foundation, because those were 2 organizations that I got to vet and study and say, you really do what you said you would do. And so that has been a great joy, being able to experience the people and the community that have invited us in, and this has been home. This is what our kids know is home, but also the perspective, where sometimes, again, another smart person, I think these are smart people, not just a bunch of fortune cookies I've had, but sometimes they'll say, Zach, I think you're believing your own press. By that, what they meant was, because I believe it so much, sometimes I may not be seeing things with a clear eye. And I've appreciated the intentionality of this area of Topeka, that there's different opportunities and organizations that cause you or facilitate the opportunity to look outside of yourselves and maybe to see things the way people that don't think like you or look like you or don't have the shared experience or learned experiences that you have. How does this work? And how can we work together and unify our efforts for the common good? And so it's been a lot of growing experience. I had more hair when I came, but I'm so thankful for the people that have taught me so much along the way.
Yeah, thank you. As someone who is formerly in the Forest Service, I can appreciate the moving every few years. As I was just thinking the other day, I've been here for 4 years now, I think, and it's the longest that I've stayed in one place in quite some time. And the purging part, I got too much stuff, is kind of the crux of that. Okay, we'll pass it down. Thank you. So, Lana, you've helped guide Kansas through periods of economic change, workforce challenges, and political transitions. Looking back, what moments best demonstrate the resilience of Kansans as a whole?
That's a good question. I can give you an example of something from my experience as Secretary of Labor. When I came into that job, our unemployment rate was at pretty much I don't know if you could say all-time high, but pretty high, because it was like 2012, so we were still experiencing some of the effects after the 2008, recession, and we were high unemployment, we were having difficulty getting benefits out to people. And one of the things that I found is that, if you're able to at least communicate with the public and explain what's happening, they're certainly a lot more willing to, live with the problems that you're having. If you're at least answering, their calls and letting them know, hey, we're on it, we're gonna get you taken care of, that's helpful. So I'd say that's an instance where I can see that people are resilient. And Kansas in general, we always found that, we're known as one of the more friendly places to live. That people are, very friendly to others and new people coming in, and very self-reliant. That's one of the things that I feel like I learned when my husband and I both grew up in the Kansas City area and moved to Topeka over 50 years ago. And most of the people that we've become friends with or have known have been longtime Kansans or whatever, they really have the resilience to do things for themselves, help their neighbors and stuff like that. So that's just something that I've learned that is a lot different than living in a bigger city like Kansas City. It's a totally different mindset and culture and stuff like that we really love. We don't see ourselves going back to Kansas City.
Thank you. Okay, I'm so glad that Dr. and Mrs. Farley are here for this next question in particular. Blanche, your life has touched education, civic leadership, and community service. Notably, as we've already learned, you've dedicated many years to Washburn University, serving longer on its Board of Regents than anyone else. What has Washburn meant to you personally, and why did you continue serving for the duration of time you did?
Okay. First, I'd like to start out with how I saw Washburn. When I was in high school, I was on the track team. I don't like it now, but I was back then. And so the track team made it to the Junior Olympics, which at that time was at Washburn University. So I was able to come with the team to Topeka, and I couldn't get over that beautiful campus. It was so beautiful, and there were trees everywhere, all over the place. This was 1966. And so there were trees everywhere, beautiful buildings, and it was just so beautiful. And I thought right now that even though I lost the race, I won because I saw where I wanted to go to college. So I went back and talked to my counselor, and you know, it ended up that I got a scholarship to Washburn, was able to come back or start in the fall, and it looked totally different. I'm like, well, what happened? All the trees were gone, and the buildings were torn up, and the classrooms were mobile huts, or what do you call them? You know, the mobile unit type things. Yeah. And so anyway, I loved it still. So I stayed, long story short. And I'm glad I did. I lived in the dorm, Benton Hall. And that was quite an experience. It was an all-girls dorm. We had to sign in and sign out on the weekends and that type of thing. Anyway, it was a great experience. And so let's see, Washburn University. Now, we're going to zoom forward to, I graduated with a bachelor's and master's from Washburn. And I think that Washburn University is the best kept secret. I tell you, this school, it is so impressive. Not only does it look good, but you get the best education. They have excellent faculty, excellent students. They know your name. So if you decide to play hooky, you know, they go, well, so-and-so, where were you? We missed you, you know. So anyway, so it has an education that you can get there that can't be beat. It's widely respected, very credible, and not only do they have great faculty, but great students. And so you meet students from all over the state of Kansas and the world. And so I just received an education there that was second to none. And one thing that I noticed, because since I had the opportunity to serve on that national board in New York, I had the opportunity to work with many individuals who had graduated from other universities across the United States. And I felt like I could compete with any of them. And it's because of my education that I was able to get at Washburn University. So I have to put in a plug for that. And so anyway, I really enjoyed working with President Farley when he first came on board. I was chairman of the board when he first came on, and he and Susan came to interview. And so, anyway, and so he did a great job rebuilding the campus and that type of thing. So let's see, I can't remember the second part of your question.
No, I think you're addressing it.
Oh, good. Oh, okay. And so I was appointed initially by Mayor Butch Felker. And I worked for the state of Kansas, and he called me up one day and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Working." And so he said, "Well, can you come over and can we meet and talk about Washburn?" And I said, "Yeah." So I came over, and he asked me to serve on the Board of Regents and represent the 19th Senatorial District. So I ended up serving 4 mayors. 4 mayors appointed me, both Democrat and Republican. So I was there longest serving for 29 years, 29 and a half. So it was an honor to serve.
Wonderful, thank you. Speaking on the mic, we'll just go back around, okay? As I mentioned at the beginning, we've had an opportunity to work together on your story, which was it was a great honor for me to have that time to learn more about you. Just a lot of impressive attributes that I was not aware of before we had those conversations. So as you reflect upon your life and when you were reflecting upon it, what you wanted to share on your story in particular, what were the values and lessons that you hope or you know, that you will hope or hoped your children and grandchildren will carry forward?
Well, first, I want to clear what you just said. I probably would not have gotten my story completed if it weren't for the help that Sean gave me. Really appreciate it. She did a great job of writing everything. I really made very few edits, and you know, she just did a great job. she can do. Okay. Could you repeat that again?
Just when you think about, when you wrote your stories, what were some of those lessons learned or just some memorable occurrences or events that you feel that you were thinking of your children or grandchildren as you were writing this and maybe said, this is really something that I would want to ensure that they knew and that they'll be able to carry on into the future as well?
Well, I think that it was good to get this accomplished because then they have something that they can read about at some time if they choose to, if they have any interest. And I would hope that one of the things that I pass on to them is to, if an opportunity comes your way, jump on it, because I would have never done some of the things that I had the opportunity to do had I not taken the leap. And maybe in some cases it was taking the leap of faith from others more than from myself because, I was able to do things that I never thought I'd be able to do. And, probably the most important thing that I hope that my children will understand is that building relationships with others is one of the most important things you can do, and having great communication with those around you, and maybe developing teamwork, because it's teamwork that really gets things done.
I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, I'm gonna pass it to Zach. Zach, journalists spend their careers telling other people's stories. What was it like turning the lens on yourself by sharing your legacy on Lasting Legacy? And what did you discover, perhaps, about yourself while reflecting upon your own life and experiences?
Well, I think, first of all, I think this was a gift in the sense that it wouldn't have paused from the busyness long enough to really, really reflect. One of the kind of comments or jokes, I'm a fast eater. I just do everything fast. And I'll eat something and I'll clear the plate and Heidi will say, how was that? I don't know. I don't know what it tasted like because I just went on to the next thing. And Will, as a family, again, a lot of this is credit to Heidi that balances me out so well and keeps me grounded, is we'll have a different word each year when we're kind of beginning the new year. One of the words I've had, it's been a lot, I don't want to confess all the words because you'll see that I didn't do what I said I would do, but one of them was intentional, and trying to be intentionally in the moment. And so stopping to turn the camera on me or the lens on my story, first of all, it's uncomfortable. I like being in control, and I like being the one calling the shots and asking the questions. It also was a great exercise because it caused me to be reflective with an open mind on the things that I got excited about. As we were kind of talking through the story and things like that, moments where you're like, oh, I can hear you're really passionate about that. But it wasn't the things that, if you read my resume, you would think, like work accomplishments and things like that, but it was more, my relationship with one another, my time with my family, my relationship with God, our faith, those things were actually the things that gave me the greatest joy. The area in my work that joy comes in is where it involves people and relationships. And so, I know from my work around end of life and with hospice, you got to see and walk alongside families, and even some of our own families, some of the loss that we've experienced. You never regret spending too much quality time with someone. You never regret so many photos. And early on, that was something I would get after Heidi, where I just spent, all this money on pictures. This is back like the JCPenney sitting in the, you take the studio with the cheesy shots and stuff like that. But boy, you're so thankful you have those photos now. You know, and I think of, as I see the slides that are going, how precious it is to capture all of those photos. And so, you know, we are our stories. We really are. We are our stories. And not only is it a gift for your family to understand why, but it also is something, as I said when we first started visiting this afternoon, it's something that maybe others can see what we've done, and maybe they don't want to take that course, and others, maybe it inspires them. But it has been a great learning experience. So moving forward, I kind of think of it like this, and I think in analogies, and I tried to keep my analogies to a small, but you know, after COVID as an example, I always think of it like a marble jar, and we got to dump all the marbles out of the jar, right? All the things that we thought were important in our calendars, the calendars got cleared for a second. And then, a great gift from that, from COVID, that sounds like an oxymoron, gift to COVID, but one of the gifts that came from that was to intentionally put the marbles back in the jar. You could choose what you thought was important before, and you can look at it. And so when you hear the narrative of your story, and you pull some of those common themes, relationship and service and community and people and all of those different things, it's like, wow, those are some things that are actually more important than the shiny things that compete for our time all the time. So what I've learned from this, I think, in reflection is, I'm going to slow down, and I will tell you how the food tasted. And if you want that opportunity, Thursday, we meet here for Rosewood, and it's a meal. There you go.
Elaine, thanks you for that last bit. Okay, King, after more than 5 decades building a life and community here, what message would you like future generations, especially immigrants to this country and young people, maybe even, you know, in a time where being an immigrant might feel scary or threatening, to take away from your journey?
Be open. I always tell young people to be open. Learning takes place at a time when you don't expect it. Learning comes from different people, different situations. But when you're not open to that situation or that moment, you miss it. Number 2, be grateful. When you wake up in the morning, just say thank you because you're awake. You're alive. My biggest fear, I'm almost 72 now. My biggest fear is when I look at people who have helped me throughout just the last 51, 52 years that I've lived in Topeka is, have I thanked the people who helped me? Have I thanked them enough? Have I said, thank you, Vicky? Have I said, thank you, Dave? Have I said, thank you, Jerry? You know, that the parable of 10 lepers always strikes me. It strikes fear in my heart. Because, you know, if you remember that parable, 10 were cleansed, only one came back to say thank you. And that one person was an alien. And I always look at that immigration resident alien thing very seriously, because I tell, there are a lot of Filipino families coming to Topeka right now. You guys know that, right? They're in our school systems. 100 teachers from the Philippines, and more nurses are coming from the Philippines, because people is our #1 export. You know, we're brilliant. Teachers, architects, doctors, okay, that's our #1 export. And I always tell immigrants with green card, you are guests. Okay, so behave like guests. Don't make demands. Don't impose your lifestyle that you're accustomed to in the Philippines. Don't impose that here, because it doesn't work. learn the culture here first, okay, and then blend it. Because to me, that was the most effective way for me to be accepted. Nobody liked me when I first came to the Y. Okay, nobody liked me because, you know, what were my chores? I was doing laundry, I was folding towels, okay, I was handing keys to the members. And the first 6 months, all I heard was, I like you because I like your dad first. I had to borrow my dad's credibility. And after that, I built my credibility because other people loaned me their credibility. I met people at church, I met people at, you know, other places, and they said, oh yeah, you know, so-and-so liked you, so now I like you. But you have to learn to blend your culture. But going back to your question of young people and immigrants, young people have to learn how to be open. And then our young people today are so jaded. They think they know everything. YouTube, that's the worst thing that ever happened. That's the worst thing that ever happened. You know, I remember when Vic, so-called Papa Vic sent his son Brian on a bike. He says, hey, get on your bike, we're going to go for a bike ride. You know, that's how he immersed me with his family. And so it goes. You know, but you don't invite people in your family if they don't want to be invited. And I remember Jerry with his 2 big boys, you know, going to Assumption Church. And now they're successful people. You know, you learn as you assimilate the values. You know, like my brother-in-law who served in Vietnam. Those are the kinds of things that you learn, but you have to be awake. You have to be open. If you're not open, you miss those things.
No, thank you. My sentiment around social media very much aligns with yours, I must say. I just sent my daughter to a camp where there was no electronics allowed, and I just thought it's the best use of my money all year long, because she couldn't do anything but just be in nature and go to the lake and swim and have this experience that we had when we were growing up, like a sense of being free and not feeling like you are tied to anything, where you are checking for your likes or people who contacted you. So I totally agree with your sentiments and so many other things. If my son was here, he would say that there was more opportunities for a go-go that he wouldn't, you know, he would actually really appreciate that, which is a very, like, in Philippine culture, that's food, like the main food that they have. My son was a huge fan of it, so hard to find here, though. Not really easy. So, okay, Blanche.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Well, I like to speak to.
I was gonna ask you a question. Is that fine?
Okay.
I'm gonna ask my question, and then you give whatever answer or whatever question you have, you know? Feel free. All right. By preserving your story through lasting legacy online, you've bore witness and described how small actions can be amplified within large audiences. As young people read your story, or people of all ages, especially those individuals who may face barriers of their own, what would you hope they take away from your legacy?
Okay. Well, I would tell them it's important to know yourself, you know, and know how you would react when certain challenges and obstacles happen. How are you going to deal with that? You know, if you fall down, do you know how to get up and keep it moving? You know, move on. I would tell them to be true to that own self. Be true. And so you must be true to yourself, and it's very important. I would tell them to have goals and always have a plan B in case plan A doesn't work while you're picking yourself up. And then also there's a saying that I like, and it's know the system, know the players, know how to play the game. So if you know that, then you will probably make it when you can figure out how that works. And the importance of taking care of their health and being kind to others. And then once they make it in life, help somebody, you know, and help them go forward and do good in the world. And so that's what I would tell them. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, and speaking of thank yous, I want to thank all of our guests today for their time and shared wisdom. It's been a pleasure getting to know all of you better, and I hope all of you who came here enjoyed learning more about their life experience as well. Even more than this, even though it was awesome and very significant, I hope by being here today, you are encouraged to begin writing about your story as well. The more we learn, the more we share, the stronger we are. So now I'd like to take a minute. I'm going to call upon my colleague Parise to turn your attention to the overhead screens. She is going to take a minute to walk through our Lasting Legacy online platform and show you where these individuals that we're here recognizing today, where they can be found, and how you can begin writing your story as well.
Perfect. I will make it so quick so that we can have cookies and juice and do the butterfly release. And thank you so much for sharing. But there's a QR code on the program. My name is Parise. I'm the webmaster. There's a QR code on the program. But if you go to lastinglegacyonline.com, you'll be able to see our distinguished guests, all of their stories, which you can click on and read. And there is, sorry, so you can hear me. There's also, right here to write your story. So we have a really amazing 20 question and 75 question guide that will walk you through. You can simply answer the questions. They will, kind of build the story for you. You can keep your story private. You can have it public. So here are like share, you have your own QR code. You can see the stats, you can see how many people have read your story. Your guest book, I had my husband sign mine, so you can see it. But, all in all, however you want to write, it can be a mix of autobiography, kind of memoir, etc. If you are someone who gets stuck or maybe gets stuck, we're happy to also work with you, like we did with some of the individuals on stage today, to help write their lasting legacy online story. So they all live here. We really encourage everyone to go and read the stories. You can obviously write on their guest book, and then if reading on the computer is not your thing, you can also now download a PDF. Anybody can have that. So that's my quick little thing, and I'll pass it back.
Thank you so much. And just as a reminder, there is absolutely no charge to write your story. We know that there are some sites that are available where they charge a fee, but we do not. And that is in thanks to Kay McFarland. So one of the things that we did last year, we did something similar with Dr. Farley, and we also had a recognition of Kay's 90th birthday. So for those of you who knew Kay, you knew she was a lot of things. To me, personally, I knew her all my life. She was a trailblazer for women. She was a role model. She was an honest jurist, and she was a woman who devoted her life to the state of Kansas. So obviously that's why we're gathered here today. The Kay McFarland Trust has enabled us to continue her legacy of preserving individual stories. She firmly believed one of the greatest gifts you can leave your family is the story of your life. Besides the Lasting Legacy online platform, and the building that we are housed in today, the beautiful gardens that we are looking out on, they're all a direct result of her generosity and her commitment to the citizens of this state, as well as a special recognition to the vision for this space, which was cultivated by Howard and Elaine Schwartz. This is actually the first time that we've held an event in this space since my father passed away. And I know he would be especially pleased with all of you coming here, as both public service and community involvement were two values that were extremely important to him. So in recognition of all that we have bore witness to today, I would like for you to join us outside. These two cutie pies over here, they are holding little packages. Each one of those packages has a live butterfly in it. And together, we are going to do a butterfly release. In Japanese culture, butterflies are multifaceted symbols representing transformation, the souls of the living and dead, and feminine beauty. They are often seen as messengers between the living and the spirit world, particularly associated with departed souls. So it is in this spirit I ask you to come outside, and we'll do just like a small countdown once everybody has their envelope, and we'll release the butterflies together. So please join me outside. You can go out either door.
They're like, Meryl, just wait. Just wait. Thank you.
Hey, ladies. Can I interrupt you? It's really cool. Come follow me. Let's grab butterflies. Yeah, yeah. Oh, you should come do it too. Okay. It's the most
Okay, does everybody have their little package? All right, so for yourself, for others, for people who are important to you, I invite you now to open your package and allow for the butterflies to be released.
They're waking up.
There he goes.
You do more.
No, I'm fine. Oh, well, too easy.
And we have more in case anybody wants to do one for a second time.
Is yours waking up?
Yeah, no, it already did.
Oh,
Do you-
okay. I think
Do
she's
you
got
know
another
if there's
one.
any turtle? Are there any turtles in the garden?
I don't know at the moment.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? It would be neat to have turtles.
Collective butterfly here.
It's waking up. Yep, he did. He's right there.
All right. Renee, I think it's time to go.
Let's see how they swim. Huh?
I'll put it in front of you.
Yeah. He's so fast.